Hey there everyone, how's it going? It's Alex. Today I wanted to do a quick video just about overeating and snacking. So I had a video the other day about portion control and how to build, the ideal plate size. But look, the reality of it is a lot of us do overeat or do snack mindlessly, and that can lead to, a cycle of stress and guilt and shame, and that just feeds into that desire to overeat again because realistically, food solves a problem if only temporarily. So when we eat foods or good foods, and especially snacky foods, or stuff that's kind of high in calories or really tasty or just full of flavor, it releases dopamine in our brain, and it makes us feel happier, if only temporarily. The problem is at the backside of that, then after that initial hit wears off, then we feel worse or we feel guilty for doing it in the first place. So we're in a worse position than we were when we started. Then that feeds the cycle, that builds the stress, and that builds the guilt. And then you go, oh well, to make me feel better, I'll have another chocolate, or I'll have another biscuit, or whatever it might be. So today I wanted to look at three strategies for kind of helping to curb the overeating or curb the snacking, just to be a bit more aware of things and to start making progress towards kind of limiting those behaviours a bit. Now, these aren't overnight fixes, but they are a good way of kind of rebuilding the habit patterns that we have, because ultimately snacking and binge eating is a pattern and it's a habit, and most of the time it's done unconsciously. So that brings me to the first kind of strategy that might help in limiting that, and that's bringing awareness to it. So instead of feeling guilty or ashamed of snacking, and this might sound counterintuitive, but just go ahead and do it. Go ahead and overeat. Have the biscuits, whatever it is. But the important thing is, be judgment free about it, but also notice and kind of name the feelings that you're experiencing when you're doing it. So the next time you go to the press, or you sit down with a mountain of food that you're going to feel unwell after eating, just take a minute to kind of get a sense of what you're feeling at the time when you prepare that plate or when you go to the press. What emotions are you experiencing? Are you anxious? Are you annoyed? Are you bored? And what are the things that had happened in the lead up to bringing you to that press? Like, were you sitting at your desk, or sitting at your computer and something went wrong and you got frustrated, or you got a bad email, or you took a bad phone call, or you spoke to somebody that you regularly speak to that made you feel a certain way, like whether it be a parent or a family member or whatever it might be. By getting an understanding of kind of what the trigger is, then you can start to look at whether or not that's a regular thing. So even over a couple of days, you might notice that kind of every time you speak to your mother, you get a bit frustrated, and when you get off the phone, you go straight to the press to get a biscuit, or because you're bored all day, then sitting down and eating a big giant plate of food is a good way to feel something. So by stopping, even for a minute or two, just to like I said, be aware of the situation surrounding what is causing it, can make a huge difference. Now, I would suggest recording it. So have a little journal, have a little notepad or something. That way, when you do notice or you remember to do it, then writing it down, you can come back to it afterwards, and it might give you a better sense of what those triggers are, what led up to it, how you felt at the time, how you felt after it as well. Then kind of the second strategy to look at would be creating what's termed a nourishment menu. So when you go to enact that behaviour, so when you're going to the press or going to the fridge, or you're making your food and you're about to load up extra that you're not going to need to eat, then having this idea of a nourishment menu where you, instead of taking that action immediately, you put in a stopgap and do something different for a couple of minutes to kind of distract your brain, interrupt that habit or that behavioral pattern, and give yourself and your brain a chance to go, well, actually, no, do I want to do the thing that I was going to do, or was that just habit or instinct? Because in fairness, that's what most of binge eating and overeating and snacking habits are based on. It's just a bad pattern in our brains that has gotten used to it. It's all subconscious. Like I said, that dopamine hit that you get when you're eating food triggers addiction building pathways in your brain. So that's just what your brain is used to. Whereas if you can kind of cut that across and say, make a list of maybe 5 or 6 different things that you could do before you enact that behavior, and maybe do 1 or 2 of them before it, then like I said, it'll give your brain that bit of a chance to catch up. So that could be taking 5 deep breaths, it could be doing 5 air squats, or playing with your pet for a couple of minutes, or doing a bit of housework, go for a quick walk, whatever it might be. So aim for something that's no more than 15 minutes max, and it could be as short as a couple of seconds, just enough to interrupt that pattern in your brain to give yourself a chance to think about what you're doing. Now, I'd write that list down, stick it up on the fridge or the microwave or on a press or something you're going to see. Or if you have a particular press that you keep all the goodies in, maybe write it on a post-it or a piece of paper and stick it on the inside door of that press. So then when you go to open it, you'll see, oh yeah, that's the thing I was supposed to do. And you know what, even if you don't do it every time, doing it a few times will be enough to start, again, bringing more awareness to the pattern in the first place. Then the third strategy is just to remember to be compassionate with yourself. So we all go through a lot of struggles. We all go through a lot of emotions every day, especially now with everything that's going on. Anxiety can be very high. Instances of depression are very high. There's a lot of stress going on in the world. So sometimes it's okay to have that extra snack or to have that extra bit of food, and sometimes that's what you need. So by not making yourself feel guilty or shaming yourself for doing the behavior, it releases that guilt and shame feelings, so that dopamine isn't necessarily built up, so you're not feeding into that cycle as much. Now, this is a difficult one to kind of implement, because you're trying to retrain your brain and trying to tackle patterns that you've built up. But ultimately, we're all human. Give yourself a break. We all do it. Some more than others, some less than others, but it's not the worst thing. And by releasing yourself from that shame and guilt and that cycle of just I'm gonna eat, I feel bad for eating, I'm gonna do it again, by going, I'm stressed, I'm gonna eat, actually that's fine, that's what I needed at the time, then you're less likely to feel bad after it and less likely to repeat those behaviors. So like I said, it was only a quick video just with a couple of tips. Now, if anybody is interested in, say, trying the kind of the first tip about the going ahead and overeating and noticing and naming the feelings, I have a worksheet done out for kind of journaling, that sort of thing as well. So it's a behavior awareness thing. So if you're interested and you want to get a copy of that, just shoot me a message and I can send you over it. Or if you have any questions about anything that I've covered, give me a shout and let me know. Or if there's any particular topics that you want me to have a look at and cover off or do a piece on, just shoot me a message. Thanks very much.